Oh, you hear that piano and you should already know what time it is. You're listening to the Questions Hip Hop Trivia Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Kantrowitz, and on this episode, we're taking another dive into our Making Illmatic series with my co-host and concept creator, MidaZ the BEAST. We're joined by fellow Stony Island audio podcaster, Nate LeBlanc of the Dad Bod Rap Pod, and today we're going to be talking about The Mouse and the Mask, the album by DangerDoom, the collaborative project between MF Doom and Danger Mouse. Does the album get improved by being cut down to just 10 tracks? And what songs will make it, and which ones get left on the cutting room floor? You're just going to have to listen to find out. Let's get into it.
Who did it first? Who did it best? Who did it worse? That's the question. Who rapping there? That remix, and what happened when? That's the question.
And let me ask you a question.
And if you ain't knowing these, then my guys knowing what you need. Some answers to the questions.
All right, it is the Questions Hip Hop Trivia Podcast and another installment of a fan favorite. I'm going to call it now. It's an early fan favorite because we've gotten some great feedback thus far on this remarkable concept that was created by my co-host for the evening, joined by MC extraordinaire MidaZ the BEAST. MidaZ, what's good, man?
I'm out here, man. You know, new EP is out in the streets. It's in the Twitterverse and all that, and you know, just out here representing, you know, keeping it live, like my man DJ Envy.
Are we live?
Are we live?
And today we are joined by a friend of mine. He is not just a friend, though. He is an extremely well-read and much needed voice in the
zeitgeist. Is it the zeitgeist?
in the landscape of hip hop media and podcasting as we know it. He is 1/3 of the Dad Bod Rap Pod. He is writing seemingly all the liner notes for your favorite 90s albums. By the time this publishes, who knows what more he'll have under his plate. The incomparable Nate LeBlanc.
Wow, quite the intro. Thank you guys. I'm just a guy who loves hip hop. I've always been a guy who loves hip hop, and happy to be here to talk to you guys. I'm digging the new format, the side thing on the questions, the new show. You piloted in public, which is always a little. It's bold.
Listen, I told Sean we should do a couple joints, and Sean was like, "No, we'll publish the first one."
I love it.
We got to get it out there. So yes, you're listening to the Questions Side Chick Making Illmatic.
The Questions Side Chick. Yes. I like it.
And today we are dissecting an album by two pretty interesting characters in the indie hip hop landscape.
The zeitgeist.
The zeitgeist. Yes, I'm sorry. You really want me to say zeitgeist?
I do. I kind of want to use that.
Did I say it a lot in the last one or something?
No, I just felt like big words were being used today, so I want to use zeitgeist. Don't hate on me.
It kind of happens everywhere I go. This is my fault.
Every time I talk to Nate, when I get off, I'm like, man, I really got to brush up on my vocabulary. It's the 2005 collaboration between Danger Mouse and MF Doom, collectively referred to as DangerDoom, and the album is The Mouse and the Mask.
It kind of starts with their collaboration on Prince Poe's The Slickness, and they did something on the Gorillaz project and all of that, and that's kind of how I guess they had started collaborating in the first place. Now, here's what's interesting. I tried to find this again and couldn't, but on Twitter, there's some body that I follow, and maybe one of you guys follow the same one. I see the nod where they kind of broke down how difficult it was to get Doom to really do this album in a real way, because the album was really put together by Adult Swim, not so much put together by Doom and Danger Mouse. It was like they had Danger Mouse and they got to go get Doom. And it actually reads a lot like how Dante Ross had to go get ODB to put the album together.
I think what you're referring to is Jason DeMarco, who was he's the executive producer of the album, and he ran Adult Swim for years, and now he works for, I think, Toonami, which is like the anime version of that. But he's just been intimately involved with Adult Swim for many years, kind of gave it its sensibility and how they're always using beats in between the segments and doing compilations and stuff. He's a big kind of underground hip hop guy, among other types of music. But he was one of the most interesting Twitter follows in the wake of Doom's tragic passing, because he was really like pulling the curtain back, or the mask, if you will, and like really like giving it real. Like, he was like, this guy was difficult to work with. This guy stole $40,000 from my company and made me go answer for it, but I love him like a brother, and he slept on my couch, and one of my kids is named after him. You know what I mean? Like, those are paraphrasings of things I kind of remember reading in my morning. But that Jason just seems like an awesome guy, and this really does seem like the melding of his worlds in like the most specific, and like it's Aqua Teen Hunger Force and MF Doom. Those are his two things, right?
And it's interesting because, you know, I'm a big Doom fan, and as a lot of people are, but you get to this album coming out of a really ill Doom period, right? So you come out of Mad Villain, you come out of, because Food is before this album. So you come out of Mad Villain, you come out of Food, right? And, you know, Vaudeville Villain, like all of those predate Danger Doom. So like Doom's on this run that's crazy. And
his 2004 is better than most people's whole careers.
It's out of control, right? It's out of control. You've got King Ghidorah, all these things that precede this. And I remember when Danger Doom was announced, and like when I remember the first leaks coming out. I remember some of the joints that were on Danger Doom were leaked with different beats. Then they ended up being on the album. I remember the CeeLo joint being really rough early. I remember the Ghostface joint being really rough early. So I remember when that was announced, and I was just like, because, you know, coming out of Mad Villain, you're like, I just can't wait for him to do Mad Villainy too. And I remember, you know what, Sean? Were we in Miami? Were you with me? It might have been me and you, or it might have been me and Conscious, but when this came out, it was one of those things where like, hey, did you know Doom dropped the new record? And it was like, yeah, I heard a couple leaks, but like, who's this producer? Because we didn't know who Danger Mouse was. And then I remember Conscious, my man Conscious, shout out, was like, yeah, he did the Gray album. He did this like mashup album thing. And, you know, coming from my standpoint, I'm gonna keep it real. Like, I didn't have no love for mashup albums. Like, what is that? Like, I don't care about that. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't mean anything to me. So I instantly downgraded his production just off the strength of, oh, he's a mashup producer. Like, he's not even a real beat maker type guy. And this is an interesting album for us to do because it was disappointing to me before I heard it, just because it wasn't Madlib. So it took a lot.
Yeah. That makes sense to me. And this was also before Danger Mouse really elevated himself outside of just the title of a mashup producer. You know, he'd go on to do Gnarls Barkley,
of course,
a lot of the Broken Bell stuff, the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Adele, you know, just really branching out there and getting out there. But I remember also being very tuned into everything Doom was doing at this time. And I'm going to be honest, guys. Again, this is me sort of just getting ahead of some things. Wasn't a huge Danger Mouse head at the time, per se, and was not necessarily an Adult Swim fanatic either. So my interest in this album was definitely all predicated on Doom's involvement. Everything else was not necessarily having me chomping at the bit, as I think other fans of this record, may have been at the time. And I'll even say, in prepping to do this episode, I revisited this album, and it is probably the first time that I've given the album a really good listen in a very, very long time. Like, probably talking since the year that it came out. Just being honest.
Yeah. I mean, I was a stoned record store clerk in the early 2000s, so I can't say I didn't watch any Adult Swim, but I'm not like the person who makes it my core identity, right? It's like, it's just one of many things that were on late at night kind of in the background. So I was familiar with some of the characters, but as you'll hear over the next hour or so, that's probably my least favorite part of this program. I don't want to hear Meatballs rap ever. It's just not, this is not something that interests me. And it's not like most skits. I'm kind of an anti-skit person in general. I wish there was a way to listen to an album with skits once and then have them self-destruct and you could hear the songs for the rest of your life.
You hate Doom then.
It's different with Doom. And some of his pastiche kind of things where he puts a lot of samples together, like the third of the album of Food.
Yeah.
Not my favorite part. You know,
right.
the jokes get old, but at least his have beats and are propulsive, and they're not skits in the sense of like a guy goes into a restaurant and you hear the door open and like, you know, like that kind of fake bad Foley stuff that's on so many 90s hip hop records. But
right.
I love Doom, and this is not my favorite Doom project for a variety of reasons, similar to what Sean laid out. But it's that you can be a bad Doom album and still up pretty high. Like, would we agree Vaudeville Villain 2 is the worst Doom record, and then this is a couple clicks above that?
Well, yes, until that Sean, what is that album? I hate the newer one.
The Janelle.
Yeah, that's the worst Doom album. But Vaudeville Villain's close.
Yeah,
so
the second
right there.
one. I really like the first one, but
the second one. The second one. Yes, correct. Sorry. Venomous Villain. It was Venomous Villain.
Venomous Villain. Thank you. Yeah. So I did know who Danger Mouse was. The Gray album fully was relevant in my world, and then because I was a record store clerk, we had stocked his collaboration with Gemini, Ghetto Pop Life, and so I was a little bit familiar with his style, which at that time, and you hear echoes of that on some of these songs, it's very maximalist. It's like huge horns, huge guitar riffs, stealing big chunks of psych songs and like kind of using big, like, and that this formula went on to serve him very well and probably make him a lot more money than most of his contemporaries and just put him in a different kind of strata of society. And the last thing I heard he was doing, it was kind of like a Italian soundtrack thing with Karen O and this guy Daniel Lupi, and I was just like, you've completely lost me. Like, I don't even know how to listen to this. Like, I'm not on the Italian Riviera. I'm like in my car on the freeway. Like, this is not for me. Anyway, so that's kind of where I was coming from. And we sold a ton of these. People were super into this.
It was a big deal though. Yeah. Like when that's the thing about it though. Like Doom was at an all-time. I remember this was during the era where Doom there was rumors of Doom signing a Rockefeller, and that Jay had heard of Doom and was trying to, you know what I mean? Like Doom was on the radar. This was super Doom time coming out of Mad Villain, because Mad Villain was so crazy. And then, you know, Food was really good too. So like Doom's stock was at an all-time high, which is why this project both made sense and didn't simultaneously to me, because it was like, all right, yeah, Adult Swim, like that's a big brand, like this makes sense. And then it was like, but this album is like weird, like why this doesn't make any sense. But that's kind of Doom. It's still kind of on brand for Doom, like. And
it's, I mean, the cover of Operation Doomsday is literally a traced image from an old cartoon. Like, he's a very cartoonish rapper, right? Like he's has fluency with that anyway, so you can see why it would kind of make sense. For me, to the album's detriment, it's way too intertwined. It's just like, we'll talk about it as we do the track by track, but it's just like, to get to what I really love about Doom, which is the kind of just absurd double, triple sequitur, like crazy runs of rhymes, you have to just listen around long things about these characters who, if you're not invested in them, it doesn't hold up over time, because are these shows even on the air anymore? Like, I have literally no idea. And, you know, what are we, less than 20 years later? And then two, it's just kind of like, he's not above doing something goofy. He's probably one of the more lighthearted of his ilk, of his like generation of rappers, but you kind of need balance with that. Like, you don't want every track to be goofy, right? You need to anchor that with some emotion and some storytelling and some, like, you know, he's on his other records, he does a lot better job of like hitting different notes with that.
So I'll tell you this, and this is really going to be fun. I was really excited when Sean said that this was the album that we were gonna do next, because I think my take on this album, while we agree on some things, I think we're gonna differ on a lot of it. And I think the thing that we're gonna differ on the most is I love Doom on the whole record. It's not Doom that I have any problem with on most of the record. And here's the crazy part about it. Didn't watch a lot of Adult Swim. I was familiar with Aqua Teen Hunger Force, and I might have been familiar with like Harvey Birdman, maybe. And like the rest of it, I had no clue about, but it didn't affect my listening at all. Because Doom, honestly, there's a song on here that when we get to it, I'll point it out, that somebody pointed out to me the other day what the song was actually about. And I was like, holy shit, I never knew that, you know? And it didn't fuck up my enjoyment of listening to it. So
really quick before we dive in, as we always do, we're going to vote, and it'll be a 3-man vote here for whether we keep a track or cut it. But before we do that, we need to evaluate how we currently rank the album as it stands today. So Nate, how many mics in the 5-mic system are you giving Danger Doom?
3.
That's about where I stand as well. I would say that The Mouse and the Mask is a 3-mic album to me. MidaZ, what do you say?
I would say 3.5.
Ooh.
That's where I was gonna go, and that's where I'm gonna stick.
Yeah, I mean, it's no Illmatic, right?
But we might make it Illmatic.
Patent pending. All right, so we're gonna dive into it first with the opening track on the album. It is called
El Chupa Libre.
Time waits for no man. On a blind date, a lover with a slow chrome hand. Judged him by his shoes, hot smelly brogan. Buzzing with the news, called him pot-bellied Conan. No prick barbarian, a strict baritarian, a sick pair of merry men. The beat is like a swift kick in the rear end. The stiff made her lose the lipstick and hairpin. He said, jam, act like you know me, even with the mask on.
El Chupa Libre is my favorite song on the album. And it starts. So imagine like, I'm like, I don't really care about this Doom album. And then it starts with the song that I'm like, oh, this shit is fire.
Yeah.
The beat on El Chupa Libre is crazy. And then Doom is at his Doom best on El Chupa Libre. He's doing all the Doom tricks. And then of course it's a Monster Island Czar's diss song. You know, he's got all the references on there, the Grimm references and all that. It's fire.
It sounds like a Doom beat too. Like,
it does.
It does. It sounds very doomy. Like I think it makes a good case for if you're gonna do a collaborative project with somebody else where maybe you're gonna start to absorb more of their style. It's a great way to lead off. Like, hey guys, it's still Doom. It's still me. This is what you're gonna get, even if it is perhaps slightly misleading. But yes,
it's misleading because there's nothing else on the album that sounds like El Chupa Libre.
Yeah.
But to your point, this could have been on any other Doom album, and you'd have been like, yeah, this could have been a vaudeville villain. You'd have been like, word,
right,
this fits.
Yeah. My only like kind of yes and to your comment that it sounds like a Doom beat, Sean. It's like it sounds like a finished Doom beat. You know what I mean? It's like it's a little fuller. It's a little bit more bright, and it's like the great thing about Doom is the rough edges, right? You can hear his hands hitting the pads. You can see he just flew in the sample at a kind of off time, but it all works because it's Doom, and it's this like, you know, kind of the ragged glory, I called it on another podcast, of like the true essence of Doom when he did everything himself, which is like such a great time in music. But this is a fully studio polished version of something that's bouncy like that, and I love it. And like, just so I probably should have said before we started on this, like I know we're gonna vote and stuff, but I already have made my own version of this, and like I just let me say a couple things about the Illmaticization before we dive into it. It's 14 tracks, so I just went in cutting 4. So we'd get to 10 like Illmatic. And then I only left in 1 guest appearances, like the AZ slot.
Oh, okay.
So so we may disagree about some of this stuff because I'm just like, for me, and we'll get to the song soon, I'm like, that's an Illmatic, but it's not my show. So, you know, do whatever you guys want, but I've already made all my decisions.
hit up the Dad Bod Rap Pod Patreon for the upcoming bonus of Nate's customized, Illmaticized.
I probably literally will do that for those guys. Yes.
As well, you should. So I vote to keep this. I think it's great. Great point, Nate, that it is way more polished than any Doom, as this project probably is. I would say it is the most polished, and sometimes to its detriment, but we will see. So we're all voting to keep it.
Yeah, for sure.
Keeper.
Fire.
All right, so we're going to move on then to the second track on the album, the hilariously titled Sofa King.
Sofa King.
To a blind horse, of course, his technique was from a divine source. Never knew the price of ice or what swine costs. One guy tried to bite the heat. It's when he discovered the other white meat. Oh, the one they hate so well. He sure keeps his cycle like the old Bates Motel.
Yo, you know what's crazy? You guys both have listened to this album recently, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. I didn't. Because I know this fucking album. I know the whole goddamn thing. It's funny because every joint you play, I'm going to be able to kick lyrics off. But go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, this is another keeper for me. Again, it sort of sticks somewhat close to the Doom formula that was put out on the first song. It doesn't feel like too far of a deviation. I enjoy it. It's got a lot of the quips, the one-liners. I will say, you know, it's an okay beat. To me, the problem that I have with a lot of the production on this album and what I would have characterized as Danger Mouse's production style around this era, again, obviously it's evolved a bit, is that it sounds a little too... And I'm not trying to say this because I know that he started as a mashup, but it does very much just seem like stock. It's like, oh, we're going to take a patented hip hop drum break, and then we're going to take a very clean sounding violin loop. And that it lacks the grit. I hope that, you know, this episode isn't just me saying 14 different iterations on the same main idea, but it sort of does lack a little bit of the teeth that you come to know and love from Doom. But nonetheless, it is still something that I'm voting to keep, partially because I think it's good, partially because I think there are songs that are worse than it. So that is sort of my take on Sofa King.
Yeah, this song was a single. So I remember very much like stocking the record and having it up there. And it's just like the kind of like washed out beige cover with the Sofa King and the font of this record, or the stencil style that everyone was doing back then. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a long way around with the joke is the only thing I'll say. Doom is great on it. I share some of your kind of feelings about the beat. It's okay. It's a long way around to get to like all the cartoon characters figuring out the joke. And again, it's just like, I just find skits torturous. I'm like, we all know where we're going. Like, let's just get there. But other than that, it's a keeper for me, and I do think it's good.
Yeah, you know, what's funny is Sofa King was probably the first joint that I heard leaked for this project, but it wasn't this version. So, Sean, I just sent in the chat, I just sent the version that I believe is the version that I heard originally. And it's way more fire to me than what ended up on the album.
Scared of a bunch of water, then get out the rain. Order a rapper for lunch and spit out the chain. Then kick a lungy off the tip of his Timbo and trick a honey dip into a game of strip limbo. Odd, he couldn't find no remorse. A wink is as good as a nod to a blind
that
horse.
That version, I already love this song off of that version. It's got the dun 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 dun. Got that beat to it, and I remember being so disappointed when I heard it on the album when it had that stupid ass violin, and that. As one thing about me, man, I don't like all them cartoon beats, man. Like that's not a flavor of mine. That I fuck with. So anything that sounds like it should be in like a fucking Care Bears episode don't really rock out for me. And this sounded kind of like that. With that being said, I love the original version so much, or I think it's on YouTube as the remix, whatever. I love that version so much that I can't delete this song no matter what, because I know all the lyrics and I feel like Doom still was dooming out, like you were saying on this joint. So this is a keeper for me.
I wonder if the fact that they knew it would be played as bumpers on TV, they just really had to clear everything, or like Sean said, use like library music or available samples, because the old school rules, which we'll talk about in a minute, sounds like a soul sample or something. And there's a couple things that sound psyche. The Mask, I think we're going to get to in a sec, but I wonder if for the things they knew they were going to use, they just had to keep it public domain.
Yeah, I think part of, honestly, when I listen to this album, I can hear a lot of, hey, we got to pick beats they can play on TV.
I want to say also that Danger Mouse sampled some songs and titles from other cartoons as well. And maybe that was either part of the clearance that they had or just...
Oh, that's interesting. Like they already had those.
Yeah.
They owned those already.
Maybe.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but again, we're trying to make this a better album. That is what we're doing here. So we're going to move on to the third track. It's our first guest appearance that is not an animated character, although one could argue that he has an animated delivery all of his own. It features Ghostface Killah, and the song is called The Mask. Very fitting.
This old thing's rusted, encrusted as the gold rings, the old king's busted. Plan to end global starvation and fat her. Now what in tarnation did I go and do that for? Stuff happens like getting snuffed.
Did somebody else flip this sample at some point? Or am I tripping? It feels so familiar to me, but I don't know why. Nate, any?
I honestly don't know. Probably, right? but I honestly don't know. It's for me, Ghost as AZ. This is the song with the guest appearance that I'm leaving in my version. We all wanted the Doom Starks thing so bad. This is one of the few finished produced songs that we're gonna get from that, certainly when they're both alive. So I really like this song. I like the way it begins. I like the way it kind of phases in. I like that they're both kind of rhyming on theme, though it's a very familiar theme for Doom. And for me, this is a full keeper, and kind of by taking that position forces some of the other more popular songs out of my version. But what do you guys think?
This might be my favorite, or definitely my top 3 of the songs from this album. Yes, I agree. It definitely had everybody scratching and itching more for this, storied collaborative project, which was never, never saw the light of day. This to me is honestly, I would maybe even say that it could have been a great opener too. I enjoy the ferocity that it sort of comes in with, and yeah, I mean it's Doom and Ghostface. Like what more do you want? Now, what I am interested in is hearing our resident Wu-Tang aficionado MidaZ here and what his take is on this, because you've been smiling and nodding the whole time, and it's been making me really nervous that you're gonna pull out like some sort of unexpected blade and just shred this up.
Cut it.
What?
This shit is trash. I never liked it. I don't like when you played it just now. I didn't like it again. And it's funny. It's primarily that beat, bro. That's I don't know what I'm listening to. It sounds like a carnival. It doesn't sound like rap. And you got to understand, like Ghostface is a colorful MC, but Ghostface is a bully. You know what I mean? Like, even the colorful Ghostface joints got bullyism in it. So this to me was too like, it was too carnivaled out for a Ghostface feature to me. And it's funny because you played the snippet just now. And Doom, again, so right quick, a small diversion. There are 3, if you count King Ghidorah, Bad Villain, Food, and this album, and Vaudeville Villainy. Those are the records where Doom had the most like vocal control. If you go before that, and if you go after that, it's where it starts to get shaky with
little Drunken Master style.
Yeah, with the delivery. His pen is always amazing.
Yeah, I think his cleanest performances on Vaudeville Villain, and people don't give it enough credit because of the weird glitchy beats. But if you're just listening for his rhyming, I think it's like crystal clear at that point.
Yeah, and it's about the delivery. It's about his mastery of his vocals. And like on this album, he's still at that peak. Like he's doing that every verse on this album is crazy from Doom. Whether it's something you like or not is one thing, but he's killing everything. So like even that little snippet that I heard again brought me back to like, damn, Doom was so amazing. But and no matter how fucking amazing he was, it didn't make the song good to me. And I did not like that shit. I would vote to cut it, but y'all are both voting to keep it. We keep it.
All right, our first moment of tension in the episode. I love it.
Fuck that song, yo.
All right, we're gonna move on to track 4.
And I didn't like that begin. To ask. That just sound like some fucking, like, you know, the those rock songs from that the era right before would be like, Dad, Mom wasn't there when I came home. That's what it sounds like to me, man. So that
you're like shit. 30 years off, but
yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah, whatever. That's what that shit sounded like to me. It sounded like
I'm, glancing over at my thousands of psych rock records.
What was that shit? Dookie. What was the motherfuckers?
All right, you're talking about Green Day, and you couldn't be further off.
Whatever.
Reference. But whatever, it doesn't matter. You're not getting this song cut anyway, so it's a moot point.
It hurts my feelings. I want it gone.
Well,
go ahead.
Don't conflate your emo feelings with emo references. That all right, we're gonna move on to track 4. Perfect Hair.
Scatman Carruthers, a balding boy, sound like Janine Garofalo, fiend for a sloppy fro, who seen the evil Quapio? Not me, yo, I'm leaving, gone. Even if I'm got them bomb weaving, connect along. No more, less stress than your old boss. Tears burn your...
I have to say, listening to MF Doom has taught me so much about Black Dude's hair. Like, he has so many interesting hair references, like when he's talking about getting the Caesar, getting the baldy, getting an edge up, taper up. Like, it's just like, I had to like look up what things meant. I apparently, from reading the Wikipedia before we hopped on, this is about a cartoon that's about hair. I didn't know that. So actually not knowing these are references helped me. This is a keep from me. And I love Doom talking about mundane things. I think he makes it so interesting with his like highly elevated wordplay. So it's a keep for me, but it would be in the lower echelons of the keep.
It's a keep. It's one of the better Danger Mouse beats on the project to me, with the ooh in the background type shit. And you know, one of the things about this song that I love is how it just starts with perfect hair. It just starts. It just starts. You know, and I'm a big fan of songs that just start. There's no rhyme or reason. It just begins, and he's got his perfect mastery on. You know, the thing about Doom, and it's in full elevation and full, like, you know, spreading his wings mode on this, is when you were talking about like how he can talk about mundane things. You know, the thing, somebody said this to me about me once, and it was as an MC, and it made me think about Doom. He was like, you know what you are? You're a reference rapper. And I was like, well, what the fuck is a reference rapper?
That doesn't necessarily sound like a compliment, but
I didn't take it as a compliment. I was like, the fuck is a reference rapper? And he was like, well, because I'm not real punchliney, like that's not my style. But like, you know, it's one of those deals where like, if you know, you know. You know what I'm saying? And Doom is a if you know, you know rapper. So like Doom will say something very small and subtle, but if you know, you're like, oh shit, he just referenced that one cartoon from like 78 that only 19 people saw because it was on public access TV. Like, that's what Doom does. That's amazing. And this record, Perfect Hair, has so many of those kind of references where like, if you know, you're like, oh shit. You felt like he was talking only to you in certain bars. And that's what kind of made joints like this special. I will vote to keep.
I loved your point about how when things just starting. I have asked a few of the people that we've interviewed on my podcast, Dad Bod Rap Pod, about that, and I think of it as like verse entrances. It's like Vast Air very memorably answered this question for me, and he was like, he just charges into the room. Like, it's like you have to listen to what he says next because of how he starts. It's like, whether by saying something so absurd, something so dope, something so not beginning-y, you know, at times. So I feel you on that one.
Right.
Yeah. Strong starts. I have nothing really to add to this. I think it's solid. It's not something that I necessarily pine to hear for. I don't really ever throw it on, but it's good. Yeah, I vote to keep it. All right, so we're going to move on to our fifth song on the album. It's another feature. It's got CeeLo Green, future collaborator of Danger Mouse, on the hook, and it is Benzie Box.
Poetry's got plenty, la la la.
Jump 'em in like jump rope, double dutch, then turn on the mic with a thumb stroke, subtle touch, cuddle clutch. Is this thing on like the fling with me?
It's my first cut. It is my first cut.
Got it. Does that make me crazy?
it might be. Yeah, or possibly. So, man, wow. How do I not remember the lyrics to one of the most ubiquitous songs in the history of pop culture? Yeah, the beat is not what I want to hear from Doom or really from anybody. To me, this painfully reminds me of some of my earlier beats, and that is never something that I want to hear on a professionally released rap record. The hook doesn't really do anything for me. It's a vibe killer. I vote to cut it.
Cut it. It's gotta fucking go.
Yeah.
I hate the beat. I hate it.
Is it, Sean, you might know this. I actually don't know. Is it a Moog bass that has that weird bubbly sound, that gurgling kind of bass that they use on this?
Yes. I don't know if I could say with certainty that this was a Moog, but it certainly sounds Moogy.
From
Moog-esque.
that world. It like you feel the bass physically, and in this case, not in a good way. Like when somebody drives by playing Dr. Dre or something, you're like, oh, this is so great. But this is like, yeah, I don't care for this at all.
I don't want West Coast Doom. That shit doesn't sound fresh. That shit does not sound fresh. It was not cool. You know what's funny? The best part about the song to me is CeeLo. And I mean, I'm glad that they did it because I guess it gave us Crazy, you know? Maybe we don't get Crazy if we don't get fucking Benzie Box, but
yeah.
Benzie Box can die a slow death.
Amazing. All right, so the next song is another feature. It's old school, and it features Talib Kweli.
Go that rap over souls like that. Old school, y'all. Just get a old school like that. Go that rap over souls like that.
And we'll be right back after these messages. Fellas, grab your nutsack, cheeks, squeeze your breasts. We ain't all that grown, it's still funny like going to the store on your own with rainbow money.
Hey, listen, man, you know, shout out Talib Kweli, man. I just did Live from the Blue Note with Nico Is and Talib, and, you know, the song's got to go.
Wow, I thought we'd be arguing about this, but I agree that it has to go. Even though I like the beat, and it is that kind of the good side of, I think, of Danger Mouse's triumphant kind of production style. I don't mind something sounding a little epic if people rise to the occasion, but I just don't feel like that's the case here. And I actually like it was at the highest of, it's the highest cut for me. But it is a cut at the end of the day.
It's got to go. It's not a memorable record. And I know it's not a memorable record because I didn't know what the fuck he was going to play when he said,
I don't remember it.
Yeah, I don't remember it. And Sean was like, I'm going to play old school. And I'm like, what is that?
Yeah.
Talib Kweli was on the album. Like, I don't even remember any of that. So, and then he played it just now. I was like, oh yeah. In the era of like putting your own track list together, this song wasn't on my track list. So, that's just where it was. And I can't even blame it on like anybody. It's not Doom, it's not Danger, it's not Talib. It's just,
yeah, there's nothing wrong with it per se. It just doesn't sound like it fits this project well.
Yeah, it could go.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you guys. I can't truly articulate what it is I don't like about this song, but I just know that I definitely don't like it. And I think it's sort of a difficult thing we've seen with a lot of the collaborations that Doom has done. You put Doom in the ring with somebody else, and results may vary. And
It doesn't always work.
Yeah, he's a guy, that I'm very much tuned into his frequency when I listen to his music, and to hear anybody else, even if it is an artist that I like or somebody that I do respect, it does not scale for me. It just is like, why are you fucking up this Doom vibe? Even if you're not doing anything wrong, like, I don't think it's like a whack Talib Kweli verse. I just think it it's not giving me what I need for my Doom nutrients.
And I'm guessing, based on kind of what we know now, this was not organic. Like, nobody's in the studio writing together, nobody's smoking blunts together. Like, it's just kind of phoned in. Like, they each got the verses separately. It's all stitched in later. And I guess there's kind of a lack of vitality around a lot of the guest appearances here because of that. Seemingly. I wasn't there. I have no idea.
We're cutting it. All right, so we're moving on to track 7, ATHF, which I'm going to go out on a limb and assume means Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
Get your crew, see if they can't get past the stench of the stew. It stank like a septic tank full of pig poo. Mostly only turned into a Frank or an igloo. Switch your view to the brother with the fried dreads, not to be confused with the incense selling tie heads. His name rhymes with Mike Cock. You could call him live wire eye sockets fry lock.
I gotta say, though, it does have a difficult to get through introduction with all those fucking cartoon characters. This, to me, beat wise, is very much tuned into the dirty, I think it might be like the closest to the dirty Doom aesthetic. And again, as we've stated, and we're going to keep stating, Doom is never the fault of really any of these records on here. So you get that Doom delivery over something that's a little bit more in the vicinity of what I like from Doom. To me, that's a keep.
Yeah. This is a keep for me. And it's really because this is actually the first record on the whole album where, like, I watched Aqua Teen Hunger Force. So, like, I did know this. I did catch these references. And, like, it really worked for me because, like, honestly, out of the whole record, like, this was the one where I was like, oh, he's, like, referencing cartoons and shit. Because, like, I watched the cartoons. So, like, you know, all the references work, even though he still eat lard by the meat wad. I'm like, all right, word up. You know what I mean? And then even like the corny ass cartoon, like fucking talking and shit that's on there, I was cool with that because I was fucking with Aqua Teen Hunger Force and shit. So
I like how you're using the past tense though. Like you were then.
Yeah. I
now?
was then. Well, I've never pulled from this album. The only song that gets played is El Chupa Libre.
Yeah.
Continuously.
Yeah.
But like even hearing this joint, like I was like, yo, I remember like not hating this song and shit. So like I would keep it.
Yeah. I know by the rubric of the show it will now be kept, but for me it's a cut. It's just I don't care to hear him weave so many references, especially not with the grading intro about the show. It's like I mean, how great would that, like if I made the show, like if it was my show, I would love nothing more than for MF Doom to write a rhyme about it, but like it's not, you know what I mean? It's just I can imagine how for all the people internally in this world this was like the greatest thing ever, but I'm like, skip.
It's kind of wild. I just thought of this too. It's wild that regardless of what you think about this album, nobody ever really came at Doom as this being a sellout move for him to do an album that was about like this corporate entity and largely incorporating a lot of its intellectual property.
Yeah. But you know why that's kind of the case, right? Because Adult Swim was kind of looked at as counterculture itself. So like it'd be different if he was doing like Disney references, but like Adult Swim was supposed to be that, if it kind of fit the aesthetic. So
yeah, we
gave him a pass.
Yeah, the closest thing you could get to not selling out, even though I would imagine this was probably one of the more profitable ventures of his life, like musically, you know, it's just like this had to be a pretty good check, and it seems like they really took care of him on the back end, and like that this was great for him to do. So
Adult Swim was crazy in that era because I mean the commercials, what Madlib was on the commercials, and Flying Lotus was on the commercials, and like real crazy stuff. Like I remember there was Black Milk was on commercial. Like it was real crazy stuff.
Yeah.
On that shit. So it was kind of a crazy deal.
All right, we're going to move on to track 8, and it is a song called Basket Case.
Of you.
For being a drunken lush and bad as hell. Read the charge and thunk sunken in a plush padded cell. Tempur-Pedic, Craftmatic, adjustable. Gone, try to scare it, it's not that combustible. I accidentally spilled some kerosene and dozed off with the L.
It actually sounds like a bumper beat for Adult Swim. I know.
Yeah.
All these, but you know, maybe it's the fact that we were just speaking about it, but hearing that, it makes so much perfect sense. Again, this is not something that I think is like an exemplary piece of Doom's potential, but I don't mind it when I hear it, and it works for me. So I vote to keep it.
Yeah, I vote to keep it too. Love the beat. Like, it's actually one of the few beats on the album that I would like to rap on myself. Like, if I would have got that beat, I'd have been like, yeah, let's do something over this one. You know what I mean? Like, it's a dope beat. And you know, Doom does his thing. Now, with that being said, it's not one of the joints that I remember a lot of Doom bars from. But you know, it definitely was a joint that got spin just because I actually like the beat on this one.
And I believe that's Harvey Birdman, attorney at law in the beginning. Yeah. And there's a rich history of legal drama in hip hop. Like, think of the Gravediggers skit before, their song. And courts and lawyer talk and things about cases is such a huge part of what you hear when you're listening to rap. So whether you get the reference or not, or whether you care about the cartoon or not, it makes sense as a rap song. Right. And I actually have it in, I think, let me just look at it real quick. In my edited version, the album only runs 24:15. It's like I cut a lot of this record out, and it's part of it is because the skits are really long, and because what I realized when I was kind of taking the scalpel to this is there are 1-verse songs and 2-verse songs, but there are no 3-verse Doom songs. It basically at this point in his career, he just was not doing third verses. So on every Nas song, there's 3 verses, right? Whether he gives it to someone or not. So you add like an extra 10 minutes, 15 minutes to the album like that with like beats and interludes and fade outs and things that were popular at the time. The way I kind of edited this, you lose a ton of runtime. You almost make it an EP, but it's like a 10-song EP because Doom just was not doing extra verses, which I find very interesting. It's an interesting artistic choice.
Did let's quickly sidebar. Did you guys see on Twitter this week about somebody had posted something that I saw was getting some burn about third verses? I
think that's why I was thinking about it. Yeah.
Hey, I'm out on third verses. And if you heard my last album, they ain't even barely second verses on the motherfuckers. But yeah, I think the logic for me, and honestly, I'll be 100% transparent. I stole that Steve from Doom. Like I remember when I first was hearing that Doom was doing like 1-verse songs. I didn't know that was a thing that you could do.
Right.
As a like, I was like, wait a minute, you could do a song and only have 1 verse on it, and that's a song? Like, wow, that's crazy. And I was like, oh, fuck that. I'm not doing 2 verses. Like, what the fuck? Like, why would I do that? That sounds
wasting
stupid.
All this genius on these third verses no one's listening to.
Yeah, like, what the fuck? Like, why would I do that? And then, now one thing that I've noticed, and when that question came up on Twitter this week, it kind of hit me because I don't want to hear any fucking 3-verse songs and shit. Like, what the fuck? Like, that's a long ass song to listen to in 2022 when I've got Netflix, HBO Max, and fucking TikTok and Instagram and all types of other shit to do. And like, I'm not trying to hear 3 verses of nothing. Yeah. So if it's longer than 2.5 minutes, I'm not gonna hear your third verse anyway. So Doom was just ahead of the curve on like, nobody's gonna listen to this shit.
And I think setting trends and hugely influential in that way of kind of breaking the rules of bar structure, verse structure, what it meant to collaborate with a producer. That didn't mean he just sat down and wrote 3/16 for every beat they had. So I'm of 2 minds about it. I'll listen to some people rap for 18 minutes and I'll listen to some rap for 50. And it depends how the album is constructed and what they have to say. And I like albums. So if like your album is like a 3-verse kind of style album, I want to hear everything you have to say. That's if it's meaningful. If you're just doing it to add more time or pad it, then I feel like I can tell, and I'm out on that. We had an interesting debate on Dad Bod, and I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole because we have to speed it up. But like, do you think a 1-ish, 132, 135 song could ever be a hit?
I will say yes, because I want to say that, and this is a random example of it, but Method Man and Redman's The Rockwilder is like pretty damn short.
Yeah.
And like short. They shot a video for that and they play it on the radio.
It's the biggest song they have still.
It's the biggest song they have, and it's like barely a song.
Yeah, totally. Really I don't know if you guys remember when No Name came out with her song. I think it was Against Talib Kweli, and Madlib produced it. It's like 137 or something, and like a lot of it is not what she's saying. there's some padding on both sides, and I was like, damn, this song's pretty popular. It's her biggest song on Spotify.
I definitely think those a 1 minute 30 song could be a hit, because in the TikTok era, like, look, most of these songs that I hear nowadays, I don't even hear more than 10 seconds of it. And that whole 10 seconds is all that matters to make it a popular record. So I think that those days are coming.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's inevitable. I think something incredibly short. Well, the closest thing actually that kind of to a viral sensibility was the Harlem Shake, the Bauer version of Harlem Shake. I think you'd have to consider that a hit song by any measure, and it was really just 30 seconds of it or whatever. But anyway.
The question is, if that is where things are going, what does that mean for podcasts? That's another
People
discussion.
will also listen to 3 hours of someone rambling about nothing. So attention spans are very malleable.
It's weird because with pods, I just listen to them in sections anyway. So it's...
And I listen to them at 1.5 speed, almost everybody. If you have a podcast and it has a theme song, I have probably almost never heard it at its intended tempo. And when I do, it throws me off. We're going to move on to track number 9. And the song is called No Names.
For holding old brew, who told you? Even if it's crap, mind your own business. They raps ain't got no gift like a lonely Christmas. Real phony with beats that's hardly fresh. How they manage the deal is anybody's guess. Yours is as good as mine.
Woo! Fire.
I do love this kind of beat. I gotta say.
Keep it.
Sean, musically, what is that called? Is that like a pizzicato or something where they're doing that thing with the keys? It's like Drive Slow by Kanye has that same. There's space in between the notes.
It's
you know what I mean?
Staccato or yeah. All right, guys. I did have this on my cut list only because I feel like his voice is starting to wander into the latter day Doom territory that I wasn't as much of a fan of. But it is the first song that I have on my cut list that I didn't feel that strong about cutting. It was more so we just got to get this down to 10 songs. So I'm not gonna go to bat for it too heavy to cut it, but that's my thought.
One of the better beats on there, and I got to give credit to all the good beats because there's some ones I don't like. So this one's dope.
This is a keep for me.
Yeah.
There's something, it reminds me of nighttime. Like I'm put in a place when I hear music like that. Like I think this is a pretty strong song.
Track number 10. It is called Crosshairs.
Flew the coop before you hit it, let me warn you. She did a cool hula hoop, but don't get any on you. It's all a big scam to make y'all eat pig ham. When he's on the mic, he's like the trigger man, fig jam, doom. Not to be confused with nobody, especially since the flows he used.
I feel like you guys are not gonna like these beats because of the sounds that are used in them. Am I correct?
I did feel instantly annoyed by the violin sound in it. I don't know. I never had a traumatic experience with a violin, but man, do I have an issue when I hear a violin very forefront in the mix of a hip hop beat. Nonetheless, I am still voting to keep it, but I don't love it. But I mean,
gotta keep something.
Gotta keep something, and Doom is carrying the weight as he is known to do on this album. So I say keep it. What do you think, Nate?
I kept it, and in my version, I moved it to the end. Like, let's give that funereal violin a reason to exist, and let's kind of go out on a mellow note in my version of it.
One of the problems with being an MC is a lot of judgment that you have is, when I rap on this, like I don't want to rap on that, and I don't want to rap on that. That's not inspiring to rap on. And a big part of my MC fandom is about cool factor. It ain't nothing cool about that shit. That's not a cool song. Like, I couldn't pull up on Nobody playing that shit loudly and everybody would be like, yo, that's the shit right there, because it's got all these fucking violins and shit. And it's just like, again, it sounds like a fairy tale, and I'm out on that.
Yeah.
I would cut it.
All right. I could definitely see that. And it's funny because now we've been doing this for a little while. I'm starting to kind of watch your guys' faces as the sound clips play. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I do have an issue with that. We did a episode where we reviewed a MidaZ record, which is a little bit outside of our zone of what we usually talk about on our podcast. And I noticed every time they did a sad song, they sampled some kind of like sample pack of like an acoustic guitar. And so before the narrative of the song even started, I'm like, oh, somebody died. Like this is their sad song, and somebody's got their, Spanish guitar in the corner or whatever. And I'm kind of getting that vibes from this, but because I already made all my decisions, it has to be kept. But I'm definitely hearing what you're saying, and it's right on the borderline here.
Yeah, it's not memorable.
All right, so a mixed verdict on this one, but we have to keep it moving. Track 11, and it is a song called Mincemeat.
The mirrors caught her in the mix. Couldn't read the shorthand for mortars and bricks. If any negative thought lingered, he let it vent. Wrote this one with his middle finger in wet cement. Did it on the slide before he's gone bye-bye. Spit it on the fly. Brush your teeth, rinse.
This was another song that I feel like I heard another version of at some point. This was also an early leak too. This might have been like one of the early leaks, like with Sofa King. Like it was kind of like if you were on Audio Galaxy and shit, you might have happened upon this. Like, oh, what is this random MF Doom song I have? Oh, Mincemeat type shit. I remember fucking with it because it was something I heard early, but when I would get into the album, it wasn't a joint that I played a lot in the album. And again, it's just that beat, bro. And then like you got to understand, like I wonder how different this album would feel to me if I never heard Madvillain first. You know what I'm saying? Like
knowing how it can be if they completely lock in, and how he sounds over those kind of beats, and it's a little bit more free. Not everything is just drony loopy.
Well, I'm gonna simplify it. Everything is just worse. You know what I'm saying? So like, imagine if shit was better. Oh, I know what it sounds like better. Like this. You know what I'm saying? Like fucking Madvillain. So like, if Madvillainy never existed and Danger Doom came out, like, I feel like we would like this album all a lot more because you wouldn't have.
We're not grading on a curve.
Yeah, you're not, because I mean, come on, you're grading on a curve if you're grading with Madvillain was your last album. Like, what the fuck? Like, that's one of the great albums of all time and shit. So that I think that affects a little bit, because when you hear a beat like this and then you hear like America's Most Blunted, you're like, what the fuck? Like, this isn't even the same universe. Yeah.
Oh, it's funny because I always sort of compare this to Meat Grinder only because they both have the word meat.
Yeah,
and that is just a losing battle.
Yeah. You're dead in the water. Like, oh my gosh. So yeah, I would say, honestly, I don't know how many I cut, but I would cut this shit too.
I don't have a strong feeling for this song, but I did vote to keep it only because I have other things I want to slay later. So my vote is to keep.
We're running out of stuff. Yours gets a bloodbathy at the end.
Could this be a 6-track album? Would we be okay with that?
Nate, are you voting to keep or cut?
I keep it in my thing because of the weird rules I did, but you guys are kind of talking me out of it. And I just have to say, there seems to be kind of a post-Timbaland Orientalism in the sample choice here. Like, is this a sample that made sense to Danger Mouse culturally, or was it just needle dropping and picking shit? And it's just like, there's a melody, I'll take it. It sounds like kind of Eastern in a way that I think is just, we don't do that anymore really. And it's just kind of been proven to not be a lasting way to make a timeless song. And like, yeah, you guys are kind of making me hate it, but it is kept on my list because I hadn't had all these perspectives when I was doing it, and because I just had to cut some other stuff because of my annoyance with the cartoon aspects. But yeah, it's not the best song on the album.
One hell of a keep that we've come to here. But, all right, we're moving on to track 12, the very remarkably titled Vats of Urine.
While you at it, double check that crystal you're pouring. Born of the plebes and needs of peeing geniuses. Broads don't see it since they don't got these conveniences. Thank God you's not a hoe in the studio. When you gotta go, you gotta go. Before you flow, make sure you practice or you losing. You don't want to miss it.
Yeah, you gotta keep Vats of Urine. It's the wildest song I ever fucking heard in my entire life. So you gotta keep it. I remember first hearing this album, and I was like, he's got a song called Vats of Urine. And then you hear the song and you're like, oh, he's rapping about piss. The whole fucking song. Like, oh, you don't give a shit, bro. Like, you're out here. Every line on the whole shit is about piss. And it's phenomenally done. Like, it's the most creative way to rap about a topic Oh, some MC shit. This is a master class. And yo, I'm gonna throw a topic at you. Rap about this shit. And he's like, oh, okay. Yo, rap about piss. And then like you could pull a 2.5 minute song out of piss. Yo, he killed it. And for Danger, the thing that Danger did on this that I like is I liked every time that it's just some boom bap shit and like some what I would consider like some b-boy shit. It's some shoulder rock shit. You know what I mean? So
he really has a way with horns like that. Just to me, when I think about his stuff, and we have to shout out Del the Funky Homo Sapien for Pissing on Your Steps off the Brother George record. That's the only other piss rap record I can think of at the moment. This did not make the cut for me and not because of anything Danger Doom or Danger Mouse or Doom did, but because it's bracketed by annoying cartoon stuff I don't understand and don't want to listen to. I will say, I actually don't think this really needed to be called The Mouse and the Mask. Like everyone just calls it Danger Doom, right? Like, did you remember that was what it was called? It just didn't need that extra thing. Just a little aside.
It actually kind of pisses me off when I have to correct myself. I'm like, oh yeah, it has a fucking name. But,
yeah, I didn't realize there was a name until I was finishing up my research and checking the Discogs before we logged on. I was like, oh yeah, that's true.
Could it have been called Danger Doomy?
Anyway, I vote to keep it because I do think that it on an album that often gets a little too wallpapery for me, it definitely stands out both sonically and lyrically. So I would say yes, it's a keep. We're going to move on to track 13, another interesting eyebrow-raising title, Space Hose.
Postal, stay waving that power band space cannon, and had the nerve to jump in the face, erase Bannon, pumped out, luckily he deaded it. Guess who's the schmuck who's credited with editing it? Your man Motar, the cop out, ain't have no other career choice, he dropped out. Since when the way out's included Zorak.
This to me is maybe the closest to a Mad Lib beat on the album in terms of the timbre and sort of character of the sample. I know Madlib wound up doing a remix of this as well. I enjoy it very much. Love the drums, love the sample. Again, it's going to bear multiple mentions. Doom never really lets down in his, end of the bargain. So I vote to keep Space Hose.
Cut it.
Not working for you?
Yeah, if OT Genesis would have heard this song, he'd say, cut it. Yeah, it's got to go. In my opinion, I didn't even fucking remember that. You played that snippet. I was like, what is this? I don't even know what this is. So yeah, I do kind of remember it. It was a song that didn't really impress me much. I don't even remember why. Like, it's not my flavor. I feel like you could have the whole album, do without it, and the album would be fine. So that's where I would stand on that one.
See, I like to keep a couple Space Hose around. And
I fucked with Space Goes Coast to Coast. Like, that was my show and shit. Yeah. But
I kept it and I moved it up into what I was considering the halftime slot. It's when you flip the record over. It's like we're resetting.
Yeah,
so the halftime slot.
That's my thinking on keeping it. But it's fairly subdued where everything else is huge on this, right? All the samples are huge and Doom's going big with themes. This is a bit more muted, which I'm okay with.
All right, we're moving on to the final track and we still have 2 more songs to cut, guys. Bada Bing is the
Is that the final song on there?
Yep.
My version was fucked up.
I can see what we do, you dweeb, you. No pun intended, takes one to know one will know. It's unscented. Yo, son, I mentioned when I'm said it from the other time. Before everybody and they mother rhyme. What a crime, beats is the same way. Make them wanna hit the streets with heat for a lame's pay. Game day, flag on the play and proper helmet. Drag on the...
It's a cut for me, dog. It's a cut for me, dog.
Not a Sopranos fan, eh?
Not a big Sopranos fan, and definitely it just the beat kind of annoys me. It doesn't feel like a great way to go out on the album to me. I vote to cut.
I did not remember that was the last song on the album. I actually was waiting to hear that song because it's a song that I like a lot, and it's actually. Right quick. It's one of, so I did like a Doom tribute on my Twitch. I'm a big Doom guy. It's one of my Doom joints that I reference when I really break down Doom for people. this is an all-time Doom verse. The whole part towards the end where he's breaking down the girl's dad and that whole, there's like this whole extended reference that he does that's fucking bananas. And you know, whenever I talk about Doom, this is one of the joints I bring up because he does some special things vocally and lyrically on this record that I go back to. So I would say go back to it. Now I say all that and then I totally get why you would cut it because the song's not great. It's just that he's rapping at a really high level on this. So like that forces me to want to keep it on my end.
I like it. I kept it. I agree it's not the appropriate album closer. In my version, I moved Crosshairs down, as I mentioned earlier, and ended on a different note. But I like it as a song. I'm going to go back and re-listen to that second verse based on what you're saying, MidaZ. And I just like it. It sounds like Doom. Like, and then I like, no, that sounds stupid. We've been talking about this for an hour and a half, and like it all sounds like Doom. But that's what I enjoy about Doom. That level of wordplay, those kind of the amount of references, and it's just to me it just works. It's a keep.
Yeah, I didn't realize. I'm bugging out because I really didn't realize it was the last song. Whatever version I was listening to, it was always like right in the fucking middle.
But then there's like a full minute of the I forget which of the Aqua Teen Hunger Force guys it is. They're like the conceit of all the things. Meatwad is trying to do the album with him, and then he screams on him, and then he takes it back, and it's long, dude. It's just like, it's like an episode. It's like that's actually how the album ends, is like with more skits. So yeah, if you're just thinking about it musically, it just doesn't I don't know. I'm big on album closers. I want like a valedictory statement. I want us to get somewhere and talk about what we learned and like have kind of a more significant beat, and like not every record's like that. I get it, but the ones that are the ones that kind of end up being kind of, you know, canonized.
So right quick, you said you were like fucking remaking Danger Doom tonight. Like,
when I got off work, I came and I played it all into GarageBand, and then I just started cutting little snippets out, like how I would edit my podcast. Like, yeah,
we're gonna hear it. We're gonna hear this.
Yeah, I can send it to you guys later. I'm not quite done, and some of the transitions don't make any sense. I might need to do some fade in, fade out kind of stuff before I let people hear it. But
I might need to send you all my next albums and shit, so you can just fucking do all the editing, and then I can put it out after that.
Surgery. So we're going to do a speed round here, and we got to figure out, we have 2 more songs to cut. We've cut Benzie Box, and we've cut Old School Rules. So I'm going to name them, and we're going to do this kind of speed round style. El Chupa Libre, got to keep, right?
Got to keep it.
All right. Sofa King?
Keep.
Got to keep it.
Keep. The Mask? Keep.
That shit.
It's a keep for me.
It's a keep. All right. Perfect Hair?
Keep.
Aqua Teen Hunger Force?
Keep.
Gots to go.
I vote to keep. Basket Case?
Keep.
It's got to go. I would say Basket Case could go.
I'm going to cut that one only because that was one that I didn't feel super strong about. So we're going to lose Basket Case. No Names?
It's a keep for me.
I voted to cut.
I vote to keep it.
All right. Crosshairs?
I vote to keep it.
It's a keep for me as well.
All right, then it's a keep. Mincemeat?
It's got to go. I'm set on Mincemeat. I was analyzing because I got to cut Mincemeat. That's got to go.
Yeah, if that makes your guys' thing work, I don't feel that strongly about it. You were kind of talking me out of it in the thing, but as I noted, I have my own track list, my own way I'm doing this. So for the official show, it's fine.
Man, Nate is plugging this project that he has. This is like this is the large professor on Midnight Marauders moment. Cop the edited album when I drop it.
I just have to make it make sense for me. You know what I mean? And it's like the main thing I did is just take out all the cartoon shit. It's a completely different listening experience. Like, anyway.
I am curious to hear it. So we have cut Benzie Box, Old School Rules, Basket Case, and Mincemeat. So the album now runs in this order: El Chupa Libre, Sofa King, The Mask, Perfect Hair, ATHF, No Names, Crosshairs, Vats of Urine, Space Hose, Bada Bing. So we're left now, and again, subscribe to Nate's newsletter if you want to hear the most idealized version of this album. But have we improved this album? And if so, if we're using the mic system incrementally, how much of an improvement did we do?
Oh, that's interesting.
What do you say, MidaZ? Or Nate, whoever is ready to do this.
I'll give it a half a mic more.
Who is ready to
a half
do this?
mic more. Yeah.
You say it again?
I'll give it a half mic more. 3.5.
So it's better, you think?
It's better. There's some fat to trim on this for sure. I don't think MF Doom or Danger Mouse would be like, it's a perfect record. Every note matters. Like, there's fully things that can be cut. This is not like the Mona Lisa. Like,
as fucked up as this is gonna sound, like, I don't know that it's possible to make this album any better. So like, it's a 3.5. It's still a 3.5. I don't think it got any better. It's okay. It's a better listening experience, but it's not a whole like half a mic better listening experience. So I'm still gonna leave it at 3.5.
Yeah, for me, I feel the same way. I came in, it's a 3 mic album, and I'm leaving, it's a 3 mic album. I think that the inherent strengths and weaknesses of this album have nothing to do with length and nothing even to do with sequencing even. I think it's, again, not a diss to either of them. Respect both of them for what they do. I just don't know that Danger Mouse and MF Doom have it in them to make a classic album together. It's not in the cards.
Yeah.
It's not in the cards.
What if they rapped about cartoons a lot? Would that change your mind?
Wait, what? Yeah.
They had a couple of singles that came out after this album that were not that bad.
Yeah, they did an EP to kind of capitalize on the success. I think this was a pretty successful record in a variety of ways, but it's not bad. It's just never going to be. I like unadulterated Doom. I like Doom producing himself, and I like Doom like hurt.
And I like Madlib producing Doom. That's it. Yeah. Those are the only two things.
You like unadulterated and unadult swimerated Doom.
Yeah, I am mad I didn't think of that, so I'm mad at you.
All is forgiven. Maybe not. All right, well, that's what we thought, and let us know. Holler at us on social media. I'll put everybody's links in the bio, and
I feel like talking any bad about Doom, like we're all gonna get like trashed for this. Like, he's like a sacred cow for so many people. You can't even write his name in like a slightly stylized version without getting 20 nerds going all caps underneath every one of your tweets. It's like, guys, calm down.
But did we really talk bad about Doom in this episode?
Not really, but you'd be surprised what's taken for slander on the internet.
Are you saying like Doom's got like the beehive, like the beehive is coming after us?
Not quite as bad as like a named fan group, but just watch what happens when this gets published. I hope I'm wrong, by the way. Don't at me. If we didn't have opinions, this would be no fun whatsoever.
100% agree.
I'm doing this episode under a pseudonym, so I mean, my new album is not out. You know what I'm saying?
Shout out to MidaZ the BEAST. All right. Well, thank you for rocking with us. Hey, I think podcasts need to eventually, and I might have seen this on Twitter recently as well, they need to make it so that you can actually comment on specific episodes of podcasts. Because that would be a great way for people to engage with us too, but we'll find other ways. You guys
I guess if you post it on YouTube, that would be the closest thing, right?
But now you're making me do more work. So all right. We'll see you next time, guys. Thank you, Nate, for joining us.
Yeah, it was fun. Thank you.
See you on the next go round. What do you think? Did we get it right? Did we totally screw it up? What album do you want to hear us give the Making Illmatic treatment next? Let us know. Holler at us. You can shoot me an email at Sean, SEAN, @questionshiphop.com. I'm at Sean Dammit on Twitter. MidaZ is at MidaZ on Twitter. And Nate LeBlanc is at Nate J. LeBlanc on Twitter. You can holler at all of us. Make sure you check out the Dad Bod Rap Pod on Stony Island Audio Network. Check out MidaZ the BEAST, who just dropped 2 new EPs. You can find them wherever you get your music. His 84 and 87 EPs. And follow the questions. Go to questionshiphop.com to stay up to date on all things questions. We'll be back with more next week. Peace.
Stony